Caucus is to amplify the voice of liberty-minded grassroots Texans who want bold action to protect life, strengthen families, defend the U.S. and Texas Bills of Rights, restrain government, and revitalize personal and economic freedoms in the state of Texas. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that with the grassroots. We're going to coordinate directly with grassroots leaders and citizens all across the state of Texas. We're going to support our individual caucus members with legislative research and planning resources. We're going to work with liberty-minded members of the Senate. We're going to support and oppose bills and policy initiatives in the House and the Senate that do not square with our priorities. And we're going to message in the public arena. But we're here today because of the grassroots, and we want to share with you our policy priorities. And in order to do that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Representative Jeff Leach, who is the Texas Freedom Caucus Policy Director.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Welcome to the Texas Capitol, to all of our friends from the grassroots, and to those who are here and those tuning in online right now. Welcome to your house, to your Capitol. And happy Texas Independence Day. Today, 181 years ago today, a group of selfless, sacrificial freedom fighters established Texas independence. And it's timely that we're meeting on this, the 181st anniversary of Texas independence, because that's really what we're here for. We're here to be the voice of freedom in Texas, here not only in the Texas House, but across the Capitol and the Senate as well. And so I'm proud to join with my colleagues here as members of the Freedom Caucus to release our policy priorities for this legislative session. And before I go further, and before I introduce Representative Kraus, I want to take this opportunity to especially thank and recognize Representative Matt Schaefer, our chairman of the Freedom Caucus. Matt has been the fuel and the engine and the heart of establishing and forming this Freedom Caucus. This has been a heartbeat of Matt's for many months, if not many years, and he has been an inspiration to me and the rest of the members who stand behind me here. And without Representative Schaefer's leadership, Chairman Schaefer's leadership, we would not be here today. And so, Chairman Schaefer, thank you. Where'd you go? Chairman Schaefer, thank you sincerely. So, there are many voices that are heard here in the Texas Capitol, specifically on the floor of the Texas House of Representatives. Sometimes it's voices of special interests, voices of other members, voices from across the state, but many times the voice of the grassroots. It's been my experience going into starting my third session now. Many times the voice of the grassroots is not heard as loudly as it should be on the floor of the Texas House. And that, at the end of the day, is what this caucus is all about, is amplifying, as Representative Schaefer said, the voice of the grassroots and prioritizing not our own priorities, but the priorities of the people of Texas, the grassroots Texans who sent us here. And so what you have in your hand today is our policy priorities for this legislative session. And we're going to highlight several of those for you here today. But the way this was formed was basically by the members, I and Representative Rinaldi and Kraus and Stickland and Schaefer, the other members, Shaheen of the Freedom Caucus, listening to grassroots from across the state. These are not necessarily our ideas. The policy proposals and priorities reflected in this document, we believe, are the high priorities, the top priorities, the most important priorities and values and principles of the grassroots of Texans. And that's what we will be fighting for over the next 89 days here in the Texas House of Representatives. So with that, it's my honor to introduce my good friend and fellow freedom fighter, Representative Matt Kraus from Tarrant County. Representative Kraus, if you'll... That's right. Let me first, before I do that, I believe very strongly in the political proverb that blessed are the brief in speech, for they shall be reelected. And so I'm trying to get out of here as soon as possible. But first and foremost, as you'll see on our policy priority list, is fighting for the sanctity of life. This includes vigorously pursuing laws that save the lives of preborn babies, presenting new challenges to Roe v. Wade, and further life-affirming cultural messages. This also includes supporting abortion alternatives such as adoption and foster care programs. We yesterday released a statement supporting House Bills 4 and 5, which we approved on third reading out of the Texas House today. Any bill that reaches the Texas House of Representatives, the floor of the Texas House, or in committee, that saves the lives of preborn babies, that protects the lives of Texas children, or that supports end-of-life protections will be supported by the Texas Freedom Caucus. And not only supported, but passionately, vigorously, aggressively supported by the members of this caucus in committee and on the floor of the Texas House. And so with that, Representative Krause, why don't you come up? Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. As Representative Leach said, my name is Matt Krause. I'm honored to represent House District 93. And I just want to thank the grassroots folks who are standing up here today. As legislators, we don't get paid a lot, but y'all get paid much less to do the work that y'all do. And so we really appreciate y'all taking the time to be here and the effort that it's taken. And we're here to talk about liberty and freedom. And it's interesting because I think you look back at the course of our country's history and our state's history, and that's what's animated all of the big changes, right? In 1620, the Pilgrims came over here for religious freedom, for the ability to speak out on what they wanted to do. In 1776, we broke away from Great Britain, animated by the idea that we should have our own freedom and our own liberty and do things the way we see fit. In 1836, as Representative Leach just said, 181 years ago today, we fought a battle for freedom and liberty. If you read the Texas Declaration of Independence, it talks about how the Constitution in place at that time was being disregarded, and the Texans at that point could not live the way they wanted to. So whether it's 1620 or 1776 or 1836 or 2017, that current of religious freedom of speech and freedom of conscience has run through our entire civilization. And so it's one of our pledges as the Texas Freedom Caucus to do all we can to defend and promote those values, especially in regards to anything that would allow people to express their rights of conscience or religious liberty in the public square. Religious liberty does not end after service does on Sundays, but it extends with you to your everyday lives and whatever job that you have chosen. We want to protect those people to be able to effectively advocate and live the life according to the dictates of their principles that they hold dear. We also want to defend parental informed consent on all things that pertain to their children, including vaccinations, because we believe that that is a freedom, that's a liberty for each parent to decide for their children and not have the state enforce that upon them. And then we also want to make sure that we continue to defend the rights of association and speech by making sure that those who come together to fight for a common cause are not marked or targeted or have marks of retribution on them just because they gave to a certain cause. We want to keep that constitutionally protected political speech anonymous so they can continue to do the work that they've been called to do and not be intimidated or harassed to cease that speech. So we're working on those things every time that there's something where we can expand freedom and liberty, especially in regards to the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of conscience. We want to do that. And now to talk some more about maybe the Second Amendment as a man who's new to this issue a little bit is, no, I'm just joking. If you would please help me welcome my Tarrant County colleague and Representative Jonathan Stickland.
Well, I don't know how I got labeled the gun guy, but we're here. And let me first say, like some of the other folks, I'm very proud of the members who are standing up here today. And I know many people who are here, especially the grassroots, worked very, very hard to get some of these folks here. And the fact that there's so many freshmen is very encouraging to me in these efforts. I'm also very excited that you're going to hear issues talked about from this caucus that are beyond just talking points or political mailers. We're talking about real solutions here, and taking that lead from the grassroots has been awesome. In regards to our rights to keep and bear arms, we will be very aggressive. We will be unapologetically supporting constitutional carry, which the State Republican Party platform has called for and made a priority. We hear your voice on that issue, and we intend to respond. We will also be prohibiting state resources from being used to enforce unconstitutional federal firearm laws. We think the 10th Amendment matters. We think it especially matters when in regards to the Second Amendment, and we will be unapologetic in that pursuit. The other issue that we are highlighting this session is the elimination of gun-free zones that threaten public safety. Last session, many of us voted on what was called campus carry, although anyone that looked very deep realized it had been very watered down by the time that it got to the Texas House floor. Those are the kind of issues that we want to be strengthening and, again, protecting every single person's Second Amendment God-given right to protect themselves. And with that, I will pass it over to Representative Matt Rinaldi to talk about the next issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming today, and I'm honored to be standing up here with so many of my great colleagues and grassroots Texans to talk about issues that we all care about. One of the issues that we put as our top priorities is one that's very important in poll after poll to so many Texans, preventing illegal immigration. It was a very prominent issue, obviously, in the presidential campaign, and it's a very important issue to us. As part of that, it's our goal to ban sanctuary cities in the state of Texas, and we believe we will. Secondly, is to strengthen border security. We worked very hard to pass a bill last session that helped to strengthen border security. Our job isn't done, and we will continue the work this session. Eliminating incentives that encourage illegal immigration as well. This includes many government-provided incentives that inure to the benefit of illegal immigrants in the state of Texas, and we want to end that. Another large issue for us is fiscal restraint and budget reform. This includes many items that are found in the Texas Republican Party platform but haven't found their way to the Texas House floor, like limiting state spending increases to population plus inflation, enacting property tax reform, eliminating the business margins tax, implementing zero-based budgeting, protecting the rainy day fund, toll road reform, and ending corporate welfare. Thirdly, education is another issue that is so important to so many Texans across the state. It's one of our priorities as well. We want to promote excellence in education by defending homeschool families and private schools from any and all government regulations and intrusions. We want to promote parental choice in education, and we want to reform high-stakes testing in public schools. It's my honor today, too, to introduce one of the great freshmen who I'm honored to work with, Representative Mike Lang. Oops, sorry.
First of all, I'm honored to be here as a freshman, and I know all the freshmen are, and the work that Matt has done, Schaefer, and all the others that have come before us through all the sessions, we appreciate that. We want to join in, be part of the grassroots. We already are, but for me, this is public safety and criminal justice. I'm 30 years retired law enforcement, so this is kind of in my wheelhouse, and we're going to be going over some issues. First, protect the privacy of women and girls in all publicly owned settings, which is very important. One of the grassroots movements priorities that we need to take care of. Another one is to reform civil asset forfeiture laws and secure the Texas power grid for natural and man-made threats, which is another big one, also in the Senate. And I would like to also say, constitutionally, we are a rule of laws. We're set that way, and we have to follow that as a people. And once we do that and honor the Constitution, I think we will be better as a grassroots movement too. And I'd like to introduce Matt Shaheen, another one of the Matts.
Yeah, well, limited interruption. I'm Matt Krause, not Shaheen, but it's okay. Just say Matt, and you probably get a Freedom Caucus member. So, but we wanted to talk about one other area, and then I'll bring up Representative Shaheen. We really wanted to focus and have an effort to make sure that there was government and ethics reform, right? I mean, it kind of goes along with the protected speech we talked about earlier. Those laws aren't there to protect the government from the people. The laws are there to protect the people from the government. And so what we need to do is make sure that we're doing what we can to make sure we're upholding those high values that we all aspire to. One of those is reform CPS. There's been a lot of issues on kids who are in our custody or in our, we're responsible for them. They should never be harmed or never ultimately die in our custody. And so we've taken good steps toward that just this week, and we want to continue to do that. We want to protect free markets, because when the free markets flourish and the private sector does, when the free markets are dead, the government flourishes. So we want to make sure we reduce those. Reduce unnecessary regulations and occupational licensing. A lot of times those are barriers to entry for people who just want to make a living and pursue happiness as they see fit. We want to get rid of that. We want to enhance transparency in government contracting and operations. That's one of the biggest issues we've had, where there corruption and fraud and waste and abuse is happening in that contract process. We want to reform that. We want to pass election reforms, including voter ID. If we can't have confidence in the ballot box, that shakes the whole foundation of society. We need to strengthen what we're doing there. We need to stop government resources from being used to collect union dues. They can be voluntary. You can do whatever you want to with your money, but the hand of government or the force of government should not mandatorily take out those dues without your approval. And then finally, pass meaningful ethics reform. And we're going to have some serious debates on that. The Senate's already taken some good measures on that front, and we will do the same in the House. But we want to make sure that hopefully as elected officials we're living up to the standards that y'all and the honor that y'all have given us to represent you. So that's another key area for us, is government and ethics reform. And without further ado, now I will recognize the grassroots chair of our caucus, Matt Sheehan. Thank you, buddy.
Well, hey everybody, and thank you for being here. As it's very clear that's been set out today, that the grassroots is the lifeblood of this caucus. So for the past several weeks, we've been working with the grassroots to get their input, and that's how what Representative Schaefer presented to you with respect to what our priorities are, those came directly from the grassroots. So that's a process that we've been going through over the past couple of weeks. So we had those priorities, so now we're going to get to work. So that's why it's very good, very symbolic to have the grassroots and the legislators here in a united front, because we're going to be working together from now here early March till the end of May, getting these priorities passed. And we're going to be working together to do that. We're going to be doing that in a very unified fashion. So we're going to be very coordinated with all the different grassroots throughout the state of Texas, working with different club leaders, organizations throughout the state of Texas. And what we're going to be doing is, as their priorities, as legislation that reflects their priorities comes up for committee hearings, we are going to communicate through the club heads and through the different leaders that that bill is coming up in what committee and at what date, to have the grassroots come and be part of the legislative process. Come and testify, come and express their opposition or their support for different legislation. So we're going to be very coordinated with the grassroots throughout the state of Texas. I will tell you that we've had 2 conference calls already with the grassroots, and they are pumped, and we're pumped. And so as we move forward from today, we're very unified and going to be focused solely on those priorities that are from the grassroots. And we can't just wait till the end of May and look back and see all that we've accomplished together. So with that, with respect to working with the grassroots, we've actually asked one of our grassroots leaders, one of many, to come and speak to you and address you as well. And would you please welcome Joanne Fleming. Joanne?
Well, I want to thank Matt Schaefer and the Freedom Caucus for inviting me today and asking me to speak. I asked Schaefer if he wanted the sweet Joanne to show up today, or the charge the hill Joanne, and he had the gall to say, "What is this sweet Joanne you speak of?" So that's the kind of respect I get from my state representative. Anyway, my name is Joanne Fleming. I am from Tyler, Texas. I am Executive Director of Grassroots America. I have a little bit of experience in this building. I am the three-term chair of another caucus we won't name today, because we're looking forward. And I can tell you that it is a distinct pleasure to get to work with state representatives in a caucus who actually have a set of goals and have some priorities of their own, and that those priorities actually line up with ours, because everywhere I go across this state, I take with me a simple one-sheet piece of paper, and it is titled Squandered Opportunities. And on this list are priorities that didn't come from some kook fringe right-wing ideology. It's embedded in the Texas Republican Party platform. Every one of these issues. And let me say this, nobody defines the Texas grassroots but the Texas grassroots. So for anybody that's shocked and stunned that we would be looking at issues that are beyond fiscal issues, let me say again, the Texas grassroots that is all across the state of Texas, that has sent earthquakes through this Capitol building because of the people we got behind and we elected, we're just getting started. And why is that? Because we collectively believe that Texas should be leading the United States of America on the issues of freedom and liberty. And in many regards, whether it's on the issue of life, it's on the issue of Second Amendment, it's on the issue of stopping corporate welfare, or on, let me remind everybody, we were here during the 82nd session talking about banning sanctuary cities. We were talking about banning sanctuary cities and providing border security before it was cool. So I'm happy that people have caught up with the Texas grassroots and understand that it is an issue of national security, and it's important to put the people of Texas and the United States first. So it is a distinct pleasure to get to work with these representatives. I hope that in time more will be added because the Texas grassroots pay attention beyond what you say when you're running for office. We actually grade your paper not on just what bills you file, but on what you fight for. And we're here today to say we're looking forward to seeing some state representatives join with some state senators, and let's fight for freedom and liberty, Texas style. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. With that will conclude our press conference today. You'll be able to see our priorities on our website, freedomfortexas.com. That's freedom, F-O-R, Texas.com. And if there are any questions from anyone in the room, I'll be happy to take those today on behalf of the Texas Freedom Caucus.
Are you, for all the various bills that you're supporting and your priorities, how are you going to get them through the calendars committee?
Yeah. You know, we're gonna. One of the beautiful things about working with the grassroots is that it's a force multiplier. When we say, hey, we take our not working knowledge of what's happening in the House, and when we see a path forward or when we see an obstacle, we're going to share that in a truthful and honest way with the grassroots. And then we are counting on them to help us persuade people in this building that we need to move forward. Okay. Well, I don't need to stand up here and look pretty, so you. Good.
How is this caucus addressing the indebtedness of our local communities? Municipal debt.
You know, I think that's a great question. A lot of it comes, I think, will come through the transparency piece. We're interested in letting people know what is happening at the local level through government contracts. We also are just, you know, we're putting an ethics package in place. I believe that's going to shine some light on that. But you've also seen that property tax reform is a priority for this caucus. It's a priority for leadership in the Texas Senate. And so I think property tax reform will speak to that local issue and give people more of a say in their local financial matters at the local level. But that's a great point.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
God bless.